What does it take to be an extraordinary leader in the 21st century? With change, innovation, and disruption as permanent fixtures in business and in life, the best leaders know that success is a moving target, that the decisions, skills, and behaviors getting them ahead today won't always be what gets them ahead tomorrow. Change is challenging and stressful. For leaders, it's even harder. You don't just have to overcome your own resistance and reactions, but your team's as well. That's where I come in. As an organizational psychologist, author, and researcher, my life's work is to help leaders become successful and future-ready. And I have good news. By honing one surprisingly learnable skill, you can become an agile, adaptable, and future-ready leader. That skill is self-awareness. My name is Tasha Eurich. I help people, especially leaders, become the best of who they are and what they do. But unlike many speakers, I don't just talk about it. I have the track record to prove it. In my career as an organizational psychologist and executive coach, I have been so lucky to help thousands of leaders around the world transform. From early stage entrepreneurs to Fortune 500 executives to public company CEOs on every continent but Antarctica. Here are a few of the sample results I've helped my clients achieve. Now, in each of these partnerships, my most successful clients have taught me a game-changing lesson, one that didn't just make them more successful leaders, but better human beings. My colleague Brené Brown once said, "Who we are is how we lead." But how many of us truly know who we are? And if we know who we are, what is it that we know exactly? When I began to look at the research on self-awareness, I was surprised to discover how little we actually knew. So a bit more than 5 years ago, I assembled a research team to get a better understanding of this critical skill. There's a lot of platitudes about self-awareness that people just sort of repeat. And as we discovered, a lot of those platitudes are wrong. So 5+ years later, what did we learn? What is self-awareness and why should we care about it? It's the ability to see ourselves clearly, to understand who we are, how others see us, and how we fit into the world. People who are self-aware scientifically, they're more successful at work, they're more promotable, they're better leaders, better communicators, better influencers. There's even some evidence starting to emerge that self-aware leaders lead more profitable companies. Now that we know how important self-awareness is, we can start to develop it. And here, there's good news and less good news. The good news is that almost anyone can improve with the right approach. The less good news is that most of us have just a little bit more room to improve than we think we do. What kind of a CFO are you? So I'm going to ask by a raise of hands, how many of you are a below average CFO or financial leader? One gentleman, we'll talk afterwards, sir. What about average? Average, okay. How many of you are above average? Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is incredible. Not that this is happening with you guys, but there is a phenomenon in psychology that is very well supported. And here's what it says. It says that on almost every socially desirable characteristic, people tend to believe that they are above average. In the world of self-awareness, there are two types of people. Those who think they're self-aware, and those who actually are. It's true. My team has found that 95% of people think they're self-aware, but the real number is closer to 10 to 15%. You know what this means, don't you? It means that on a good day, 80% of us are lying to ourselves about whether we're lying to ourselves. Pretty scary, right? And by the way, one of the things I've learned, which I often talk about in my keynotes, is that even self-awareness researchers have room to improve. Yes, I too have found that I am definitely not as self-aware as I once thought. And this is all to say, we're all in this together. There's something kind of comforting about that, isn't there? And before I could respond, she continued, and she said, and I quote, "And boy, have you come a long way since we first met you." But there's a bright light at the end of the tunnel. With courage, commitment, and the right approach, almost anyone can transform their level of self-awareness. And in my keynotes and workshops, I help my audiences do just that. I know that people are sharing their most valuable commodity with me, their time. So in addition to revealing interesting research and inspiring and instructive stories, I give them practical tools they can apply the minute they leave the room. As my friend Marshall Goldsmith often says, this is trade school, not grad school. So the bottom line is, in the next 55 minutes or so, I am going to help you be a future-ready leader. I'm going to give you 4 tools that you can walk out of this room right away and start using to be more self-aware. There's a very small tweak that we can all make to make the process of introspection actually produce insight. The tool is finding what we named loving critics. It's called the Reflected Best Self exercise. I call it the magic feedback question. I want you to think of, just to circle back to the challenge I gave you at the beginning, one thing that you are going to leave the room today and start doing differently, the smaller the better, to be a more self-aware, successful leader. One final point. As a speaker, it is really important to me to meet my audiences where they are. No two groups are the same, whether it's a group of scientists or salespeople, CPAs or CEOs, entrepreneurs or engineers. I do my homework to understand their day-to-day reality. And by knowing the biggest challenges they're facing in their role, their company, and their industry, I can help them connect those pain points to the solutions I provide. You now know that although there are obstacles and roadblocks, it is possible to transform your level of self-awareness. After all, if we're not self-aware, how can we fulfill our truest purpose? How can we build deep and lasting relationships? How can we make our mark on the world, on our customers, our teams, our organizations, and our communities? Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. Thank you very much.